With that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a...
For the past year, we've watched Sheryl Swoopes target Caitlin Clark with bizarre claims. That she's a 25-year-old playing against teenagers. That her rookie season isn't impressive. That nobody wants to play with her.
Your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Right.
How can you separate the two? It's kind of hard, right?
I used, Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dumb.
Then Cheryl Miller stepped into the ring. The basketball legend and former Clark coach just delivered a knockout blow on the podcast, calling Swoopes a big dummy and dismantling the false narratives. Miller's putting Swoopes in her place, and her defense of Caitlin Clark reveals something surprising about the future of the Indiana Fever that has fans buzzing with excitement. Are you ready? Let's go.
Two-time Player of the Year, two-time National Championship, two-time Tournament MVP, first woman to dunk in an organized game, gold medalist. Thank you for making time. Welcome to the show, Cheryl Miller.
Before we break down everything Miller said, have you ever wondered why one of basketball's legends seems so determined to tear down the WNBA's brightest new star? Let's unpack the bizarre crusade Sheryl Swoopes has waged against Caitlin Clark from her college days right through her rookie season. Let's also talk about
how much more experience that gives you over other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old.
It all started with Swoopes making wildly inaccurate claims about Clark's college career. In perhaps her most outrageous statement, Swoopes claimed Clark was a 25-year-old playing against 20-year-olds during her time at Iowa. The reality? Clark was just 22 and playing in her fourth year, like countless other college seniors. When called out on this falsehood, Swoopes backpedaled, suggesting it was just hyperbole related to COVID eligibility rules. A weak excuse that didn't hold water.
Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
Carry on.
I know you like that.
Hell yeah.
I said that because when she comes to the league, regardless of what team she goes to that has vets on that team, she probably ain't gonna get 40 shots a game.
But Swoopes was just getting started. She went on to claim that Clark took 40 shots a game, painting her as a selfish volume shooter. The actual number? Clark averaged 22, 7 shots per game. What makes this claim particularly ironic is that Swoopes herself averaged 19, 2 shots per game during her senior year, just 3 fewer than Clark. Talk about throwing stones from a glass house. When Clark was closing in on the all-time NCAA scoring record, Swoopes shifted tactics, questioning the legitimacy of the achievement by suggesting Clark needed a 5th year to break it.
Caitlin, if you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it.
Okay.
Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
This was completely false. Clark shattered the record in 4 years, the same amount of time as other college players. Swoopes conveniently ignored that the COVID eligibility rule would have allowed Clark a 5th year, but she chose not to use it. As Clark entered the WNBA, Swoopes boldly predicted she wouldn't dominate. But as Clark began breaking rookie assist records and establishing herself as one of the league's premier playmakers, Swoopes mysteriously went quiet. The numbers speak for themselves. Clark finished her rookie campaign averaging 19, 2 points and a league-leading 8, 4 assists per game, silencing the doubters and securing Rookie of the Year honors.
Say she wouldn't be good. What I said was I didn't think Caitlin or Angel would come into the league and dominate immediately, which I don't think either of them did.
Respectfully,
There is absolutely no way, even when we're trying to sit here and play semantics about dominating, there's no way that anyone could ever leave this season in saying that both Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese didn't dominate. You would have to further explain what dominance means for you to not sit here and say that a player who is leading the league in assists while averaging 19 to 20 points didn't dominate.
Perhaps most telling was Swoopes' appearance on Angel Reese's podcast, where she continued undermining Clark while insisting she doesn't dislike her. A classic case of saying one thing while doing another.
Cheryl, since she was in college, I helped do her shoe deal with Nike in 1993, took her to her first SBs. I've known Cheryl, I've coached her, have a lot of respect for her. I called her when Caitlin was still playing at Iowa and she had just broken Maravich's record. And it was all over the place, as you and I have discussed, that there was this quote by Cheryl that said, Caitlin was, 25 years old. She was, 24 years old. She was a fifth-year senior. Right. She was taking 40 shots a game. Her records were illegitimate.
The basketball world took notice of this pattern, and eventually Swoopes was removed from broadcasting a Fever game and replaced by Nancy Lieberman, who didn't hesitate to call out the misinformation being spread about the rookie sensation.
Treadmill, and I called her as a friend and I said, you can say whatever you want, you can have your own opinion about anybody, but you do have to get the statistics right. I mean, facts matter. And if you just get ahead of this and just say, hey, I made a mistake on my numbers, then this thing is over and everybody respects you for your opinion. And you might like Boston, I might like the Yankees. It's okay to have difference of opinions. Well, she got upset with me on the phone, and I was like, Cheryl, I'm not doing anything to hurt you. I'm just sharing. We're talking. And so our relationship, it pretty much is not happening at this point. I tried to talk to her at the Final Four. Right. She didn't want to talk to me. My life's going to be good or great with or without Sheryl Swoopes in my life.
The basketball world was desperately waiting for someone with credibility to step into the Caitlin Clark conversation. That moment finally arrived when Cheryl Miller walked into the All the Smoke podcast studio and absolutely lit up the critics. What happens when a basketball legend who's actually coached Clark decides she's had enough of the nonsense? You get one of the most authentic defenses we've seen in women's basketball.
Oh, Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes. But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I can't fault her for what she was given.
Miller didn't just casually support Clark. She came with fire and precision that only someone of her stature could deliver. Her now viral comment directed at critics like Swoopes said everything in just 2 words. Come on, you big dummies. The studio erupted, but Miller was just getting started. She defended Clark's work ethic with the passion of someone who's seen it firsthand. This wasn't just another talking head defending Clark. This was Cheryl Miller, one of the greatest to ever touch a basketball, directly calling out the hypocrisy that's been swirling around the young star. She pointed out something the haters conveniently ignore.
No, I mean, look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for her to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So, with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
It's the uncomfortable truth that Clark's critics don't want to admit. Her presence has elevated the entire league, including the paychecks of those criticizing her.
Recently coached the WNBA All-Star game. You spent some time with Caitlin Clark.
Best coaching job ever.
Best coaching job
Best
ever.
coaching job ever.
Being around Caitlin Clark, how was the experience for her? She's such a big star. I mean, the sky's the limit for her. To be around her, just talk about the type of person she is, how much she loves the game.
I'm going to be honest because it needs to be said. I can relate to that young lady, and I felt for her. I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a black woman and hated because of my
skin.
color.
Yeah.
What makes Miller's defense so powerful is that she's not speaking from speculation. She's speaking from direct experience. After coaching Clark in the 2024 WNBA All-Star Game, Miller had a front row seat to evaluate Clark's game beyond the highlight reels. And what she discovered surprised even her.
Imagine this young lady, I don't want to use hate, but despised. And people just having, she brought some on herself a little bit because she's cocky for a good reason.
Confident.
And I love that about her. But to watch the dynamics and the media, they had their narrative. And I was pleased and proud to see the narrative wasn't the truth.
I was pleased and proud to see the narrative wasn't the truth, Miller revealed, effectively dismantling months of media spin in a single sentence. She went deeper, offering rare insight into what makes Clark special.
Watching her pass, and I didn't know how talented she was and how well she sees the game in a 3D version, thinker. Defensively, a lot better than I thought and gave her credit for. So watching her and just spending a little time. And one thing, guys, that I've learned is to step back and let these kids be themselves.
Behind Miller's technical breakdown of Clark's skills lies something far more significant. A genuine emotional bond formed in the trenches of Clark's most difficult moments. When the Fever finally secured their first win of the 2024 season, Miller didn't just congratulate Clark. She offered her something almost no one else had: unconditional support when the rookie needed it most.
Getting hit with everything left and right, and I just said, I hugged her, I said, I'm so proud of you. I go, savor this. Use this as a formula. I said, but keep being you. I said, no matter what, keep.
That embrace between Miller and Clark after Indiana's first victory wasn't just a casual interaction between basketball figures. It was a pivotal moment that revealed just how isolated Clark had felt. During the storm of criticism surrounding her entry into the league, Miller recalled the raw emotion of that interaction. I gave her the biggest hug that I could. When she saw me, she was like, oh man, finally somebody who's on my side. She was getting hit with everything left and right.
It's a crown that she's wearing right now.
Right.
And it wasn't something that she self-anointed herself. It's something that's been placed on her head. And I hope people understand that. But it's everything that she's dealing.
In that vulnerable moment, Miller didn't just offer empty platitudes. She provided the kind of guidance that only comes from someone who's walked a similar path. I'm so proud of you. Savor this. Use this as a formula. But keep being you, no matter what. Keep being you. These weren't just comforting words. They were a lifeline to a rookie drowning in expectations and scrutiny.
And I gave her the biggest hug that I could. And when she saw me, she was like, oh man, finally somebody I see that's on my side.
Right, they can relate.
The one thing that I said to her, and she was heading into her senior year, was have fun. No matter all the static, just make sure you.
When Cheryl Miller speaks, the basketball world listens. And for good reason. Her voice carries the weight of an extraordinary legacy. 3 Naismith Player of the Year awards, 2 national championships, Olympic gold, and a place in the Basketball Hall of Fame. But Miller's support goes beyond her impressive resume. She sees something in Clark that many critics miss: the exceptional court vision that makes her more than just a scorer.
You can set a screen for Kaylin. Kaylin don't need a screen. Kaylin's got great handles. The one thing that I don't think people really appreciate about that young lady's game, she can pass the ball.
She can't pass. She got great assists.
And the bounce pass
The bounce pass is powerful.
which is almost non-existent.
The one thing that I think people don't really appreciate about that young lady's game: she can pass the ball. Miller emphasized highlighting an aspect of Clark's play that transforms her from merely great to potentially transcendent. This wasn't just praise. It was validation from someone who recognizes basketball brilliance when she sees it.
All that they've done for the women's game from a collegiate level to now, and it's working. And it was only a matter of time. And great narratives, great storylines. But now the bottom line comes down to one thing: it's about basketball.
What makes Miller's perspective especially valuable is her unique position at the intersection of player development and media narratives. During the 2024 WNBA All-Star Game, she witnessed firsthand Clark's greatness in real time. In one straightforward observation, she dismantled months of football. False narratives being created by the old guard about Clark.
Advice, if any, did you share in that meeting with Caitlin? Because I know that she spoke very highly of you, got great respect for you.
I've known Cheryl for a little while now. I think her energy, that's what I love about her. Like, it's just contagious. And
The All-Star Game wasn't just about busting myths. It marked the beginning of a relationship that could transform the entire trajectory of the Indiana Fever. When Caitlin Clark nervously called Cheryl Miller coach for the first time, neither woman fully realized they were planting the seeds for what might become the WNBA's next championship powerhouse.
I've known Cheryl for a little while now. I think her energy, that's what I love about her. Like, it's just contagious, and it's fun.
Long before stepping onto the court together, Clark had been watching Miller from afar with unmistakable admiration. Obviously, Cheryl, she's like one of the pioneers of our game. Just an awesome individual. Her personality radiates, Clark revealed. Her respect for the basketball legend evident in every word. This wasn't just polite acknowledgement. It was genuine excitement from a young star who understood the significance of working with greatness. The anticipation only built as the all-star coaching announcement approached. For her to get to coach us, it's super exciting for me. I was super excited when I heard that news, Clark shared, revealing how meaningful this opportunity was to her. But it was their first interaction that truly showcased the potential future of this partnership.
I need to be around those two people that have done so much for the game. For me, it's super special. Like, there's still two people that I really look up to and idolize and appreciate everything that they've done, and for them to have this moment too and be a part of it, like, it's just super.
Clark, despite her confidence on the court, approached Miller with the deference of a student meeting their idol. I called her coach, and she said, "I don't know about that. We'll have to see how I do during the game." Clark recalled with a laugh. This small moment. Humility from both sides speaks volumes about the foundation they're building together. What makes this connection so intriguing for Indiana's future is how clearly Miller sees the championship DNA already present in the Fever. After working closely with the team's core, Miller didn't mince words. Indiana has a very, very bright future. Coming from someone with multiple national championships and Olympic gold, that assessment carries weight that basketball insiders immediately recognize.
What an opportunity. And I was excited, like really, really excited, till I found out that the team I'm coaching wants to beat the brakes off our Olympic team. I'm like, okay, the pressure's on. So now we got a game, folks. We're going to have a game, but it's been fantastic.
What impressed Miller most wasn't just Clark's individual talent. It was the collective fearlessness of the entire Fever roster. This is not a team people want to play, Miller observed. Not only are they getting better, but they're confident and they share no fear. They're fearless. That psychological edge, the willingness to compete against anyone, is exactly what championship teams need when facing adversity. Perhaps most surprisingly, Miller found herself stunned by the basketball intelligence on display from the young Fever squad. I did not count on their basketball IQ being that high, she admitted. I knew it was high, obviously because they play at this level. But it's one thing to know knowledge. This cerebral dimension, The ability to not just execute, but understand the game at its deepest levels is what separates good teams from great ones.
People that came well before today's game, they were skilled. They were incredible. The spotlight is now enhanced, and give these women credit. They have certainly elevated the game. But there are some truly, truly great players that could play today that played yesterday.
And you know what? And I love the way that you said piggyback, because in no way, shape, or form am I not appreciative of where the game is at and the exposure, because we get exposure. Everybody forgot Lynette Woodard until Caitlin Clark broke her scoring.
Looking ahead to the 2025 season, there's something special brewing in Indiana that goes beyond just X's and O's. The mutual respect between Caitlin Clark and Cheryl Miller isn't just for show. It's a foundation for something potentially championship-worthy. Clark herself has acknowledged Miller as one of the pioneers of our game and praised how her personality radiates. What makes this connection so powerful is how genuine it feels from both sides. Miller has been blown away by Clark's abilities, particularly her court vision, which she describes as seeing the game in a 3D version. This isn't just empty praise. It's recognition from one of basketball's greatest minds. When Miller told Clark, "I'm so proud of you, savor this. Use this as a formula, but keep being you," she wasn't just offering encouragement. She was passing the torch. While certain critics continue their tired campaign of misinformation, this Clark-Miller alliance represents everything that's right about basketball's generational connections. The future in Indiana isn't just bright, it's championship caliber with this kind of mentorship in place. Let us know in the comments how excited you are. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.